Hey everyone, welcome to the Wheels of Walking podcast, the podcast where the guy's life is falling apart and the other guy records it. On today's episode, we talk about how fucking crazy the past 14 days have been.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, literally. Jesus.
So last week we were like so stoked because we got nominated for a Shorty Award and like all this stuff, and we put out 2 videos. We literally launched a video, the wheelchair review video, and then which we recorded in the past, by the way.
Which a lot of people didn't know that. They're like, good to see you up and going again. I'm like, that was November of last year.
And you're like, I'm typing this from a hospital. But we got nominated for a Shorty Award, and we had another video to upload, so we were like, well, shit, like we're about to do a video on Wednesday, then the Shorty Award video on Thursday, and then we're going to put out a podcast on Friday. And we normally record the podcast on Thursday, but we record the podcast on Thursday, but on Wednesday night, Richard sent everyone a text, the team Richard, he sent out a team to everybody and was like, yo, dudes, like, I am not okay.
Yeah, I was at the point where I'm like, so I'm a tough motherfucker, and I know when I've like when I can handle myself and when I can't handle myself. And I reached the point where I was like, I'm afraid I can't handle myself, because I had a fever that was so hot that I like couldn't get out of the bed to even get water or even to like pee. Like I knew I was like beyond my capacity.
Because you were going through opiate withdrawals.
Yeah, that's another thing is like, so remember last podcast that you guys listened to, which came out more than 2 weeks ago, but it'll be, like 2 weeks.
It's 2 weeks from right now when we're recording this.
And it
Friday.
was crazy because I remember I was talking about opiate withdrawals and how much I was having like these fevers and like body aches and like all this pain, and I like couldn't figure out what was going on. And I was like, oh, it's just withdrawals, which it might have been a little bit, but I remember by like day 2 or 3, I'm like, scientifically, I'm not going through withdrawals anymore. Like all these opiates are out of my system. Like, why do I still feel like crap? And I'd been having like the same fever for like 3 or 4 days, and it would always peak at night. So I'd wake up with like soaked sheets, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I was always taking
not pee, it was like sweat.
Yeah. So I'd wake up with like Advil and like Tylenol and like muscle relaxers, and I was like, God, I got to get like something ain't right. And I remember feeling like just really sick. Like fatigued and like brain fog and like tired and sore. And I was like, what's going on? And my like low back hurt and like my bladder hurt or my lower abdomen hurt. And I thought that was, again, opiate stuff. So I was like, let me go to my primary care doctor and see if maybe I have a UTI and like get on some antibiotics. And, he took a urine culture, but, we basically didn't run it because he pretty much just believed me. He's like, yeah, you know your body pretty well. And I was like, I do. So I went through like 3 or 4 days of antibiotics, and like the fevers kept getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and I was like in more and more pain. And like, you remember, like I was fucking like from 10 to 5 is when I was done. Like it took me a couple hours to get up in the morning because I had to like remedicate myself, and then by the time like 4 or 5 kicked around, like I was out again. Like I was laying in the bed, like groaning. Like it was not a fun place. And I'm like, dude, this isn't like this. Something's messed up.
And the fevers are making your pain worse, right?
Yeah. So the fevers set off my spasms. Like I don't ever get spasms unless I have a fever. So the higher the fever, the more spasms I get. And my spasms are like nerve pain spasms, I guess.
Not like your leg flicking out. It's like pain.
They do kick and dance every now and then, but it's mostly like electric shock, lightning bolts, like taser feeling. Like it's not fun. Like I scream. Like I can't sleep. It's like I yelp. It's like a dog when he gets like kicked or like.
It literally sounds like that. It's like very heartbreaking to watch, to be honest.
Yeah.
Not to like patronize you of like, oh, poor Witcher, it's so sad, but it's like literally sad to watch because like you can't do anything when you're having like a fucking pain attack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel bad for people like you and Jalila and like other people that have experienced it, because I kind of have this weird guilt where I'm like, well, it's my pain. I hate that they hurt because of my pain, but like they're seeing someone they love and care about suffer, so like it makes sense that they would hurt, and then I feel weird because I'm like, hold it in so they don't have to hurt. It's like very weird, but so I had reached this point where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Like something is wrong to the point where like I have to go to the hospital. And like that's when I like that night where I sent the message to everybody. I was like, I'm messed up. Like someone has to come over and help me because I'm messed up. And So like my mom made it over and she, brought like a thermometer and, like brought me some juice or whatever. And I like fell asleep at like 4 or 5 and then woke up at like 8 or whatever. And then immediately was like, took a shower and ate breakfast and like packed my bag for the hospital because I knew like I'm clever enough to figure out my own problems pretty quick. Not pretty quick, but on my own. And if I had spent the last 8 days trying to figure out my own issue and I couldn't find the source of the fever, that I knew a medical...
Well, you thought you might have had a UTI too. Do you think you still had... Do you think you had that?
No, that's what I'm talking about. It's like I took the antibiotics for like 3 or 4 days, and by day 2 or 3, normally your symptoms start to go away.
Yeah.
And then the other days are just like kind of, clearing out all the rest of the bacteria.
It's like, opiate withdrawals. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's UTI. Maybe it's, whatever else. And
I thought it was
like,
I thought it was a kidney infection going in, honestly, because when a UTI goes untreated, it goes up in your kidneys, and that's why I was having the low back pain. I thought, and it was like all this fucking mess, and I'm like, dude, like no one's gonna be able to figure this out. So I packed like a week's worth of stuff, like all my catheters and my meds and laptop and charger, and like I just packed everything.
Yeah, it wasn't like last time where you got rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. You were checking yourself in, so you were able to bring everything.
Clothes. Yeah, that's a pro tip I recommend anyone. If you're especially if you're spinal cord injury, pack an entire trip's worth of stuff, and especially your catheters, because hospitals do not carry those things. They do not carry your caths. Like, you have to take your own.
Yeah, I was about to ask that. Like, wouldn't they like carry those?
It's a specialized piece of medical equipment, so not really.
But they have like generic catheters, probably.
They got the kind that they go in and they stay in, and then you're attached.
An indwelling catheter.
Yeah, indwelling catheter. Or they might have like a catheter kit, but it's not the one that you would use. Like it's a problem. Like they do not have urological supplies just like readily available.
I guess it kind of makes sense. It's probably very infrequent that someone needs like a very specific kind of catheter or whatever, and they can't be expected to have everything or whatever.
Exactly, like a colostomy bag would be like another example, or if you have like anything that's like helps with your bodily functions or that's attached to your body, or like people that have like feeding tubes, like there's a lot of stuff that like they just don't regularly have. Yeah. They don't have like the exact things. So super pro tip is pack all your stuff. So I showered and I packed all my stuff because I knew once I got there I wasn't going to shower for a while. And they ran tests on my urine. They ran tests on my blood. They cultured my blood. They cultured my urine. Nothing.
What does cultured mean?
Culture means where they basically put it in a petri dish and let it grow and see if any bacteria grows.
Gotcha.
So the urine came back clear, no infection. The blood came back clean, no infections in the blood, like no white blood cell count, like nothing. Like they were all like, well, everything shows that you're not sick, but you have this fever, so you are. And, I kept telling them, I'm like, yeah, I just got out of this, like, got hit by a car 5 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago, and my leg.
Yeah, and it's funny because the doctors will come in there like, you're in here because you got hit by a car, right? And it was like, yeah, but no.
I'm like, no, I'm in here for a fever that I can't figure out. And they're like, oh, well, you got hit by a car? Is that how you got your spinal cord injury? And I'm like, no. Yeah.
There's like 5 major events you have to explain to them.
Yeah, there's so many times. And also doctors are like the worst with ableist language. Like there's so many times it's like, oh, is that how you got confined to the wheelchair? Like, oh, is that how you were wheelchair bound? Like or to be like, oh, is that how you got your quadriplegia? I'm like, I'm not a quad. No. There was only one nurse that knew what was up. And one time a doctor came in to talk to me, and the nurse was like, that's irrelevant to this current state. You don't need to ask him about that. She's like, but he has paraplegia. He needs to be treated. She goes, no, he doesn't. He's here because of a reason that I'm going to tell you guys in a second. She's like, not because of his paraplegia. So stop asking him about that. She's like, it's inappropriate. Like the nurse was like on my side. It was pretty cool. And so we like kept trying to figure out what the hell. So eventually they like put me in this like decision unit or whatever, because like they couldn't figure me out in the emergency room, and I still kept having fevers and kept having fevers and kept having fevers, and like they kept running tests and would give me scans and x-rays and checks and just everything, and they couldn't figure it out. So it kind of got to the point I'm like, okay, well, what's the one thing that's changed since, and it was the leg. I'm like, okay, so can we start running some like scans in the leg? Can we like figure out why it's like, maybe the swelling hasn't gone down, or like why it hurts? And they're like, okay, sure. So they did some they scanned for blood clots, which are also known as DVTs. Don't know what DVT stands for, but so they like
It's a devotee.
yeah. So the
I'll look it up.
The lady who was like doing my sonogram or whatever, like anyone who's gotten a sonogram before, they just look, through, they just put the jelly on you and they scan you, and then as they're scanning you, they'll like make little clicks to like mark like important images. They'll like take photos and then they'll write notes on the photos. And she just kept clicking and kept making notes and kept clicking and kept making notes, and I was like, oh fuck. I was like, I know what this means. She's like, and we need to check your other side just to make sure that, there's a variance between the two, just for whatever. And then she kept like clicking, and she like went all the way up to my abdomen and like all the way down to my toes, and she was like going beyond like looking at my hips and all this stuff, and I'm like, oh geez, like there's something big going on here. Like this is a problem. And so then I was diagnosed with what the vascular doctor considered like one of the more extreme blood clots he's seen. He called it extensive.
DVT, by the way, is, oh my God, I just forgot it. Deep vein thrombosis.
There you go, a deep vein thrombosis. And
it's when you're playing the trombone in a deep vein.
Yeah.
A deep vein thrombosis.
Thrombosis. And so I kept having these like wicked fevers, and he's like, yeah, it's pretty extensive. We're going to have to operate on it. We're going to have to do a thrombectomy. We're going to go in through the back of your leg and, kind of suck out all that's there. And, I've got a filter that was put into my body, which basically keeps any blood clots from breaking loose and like shooting up into my lungs or into my brain.
That's convenient.
Yeah,
that you had that.
They put it in there for this exact purpose, because a lot of people with spinal cord injuries get blood clots,
and probably would never notice them because they don't have sensation and all that kind of thing.
You notice them when they get hot and swollen. Like there's another guy named, I won't say his name, but anyway, he was saying his legs got so swollen he couldn't even fit in his wheelchair anymore.
Holy shit!
Like that's how he knew he needed to go to the doctor, because they were just so big he couldn't fit in his own wheelchair anymore.
Wow.
But. So they put me like on like these heavy duty hardcore blood thinners, like in an IV drip, where they had to like make sure that I weighed the exact amount, and every time they tested my blood, they had to make sure that like my blood levels were the same, and then they would adjust it, to like fit the exact, thing every couple of hours. It was pretty serious, because like I could have started just bleeding internally or bleeding at my Blaine or,
Your Blaine?
My Blaine. My David Blaine.
I could have started bleeding in my Blaine.
Bleeding in the Blaine. And then it was like, okay, so we're doing this surgery, and then like it's we're gonna do it tomorrow, and then
so don't eat for the whole day.
And then
Andrew brings the wrong ham.
I asked Andrew to bring me a literal like entire ham and some pickles, and he brings like 4 ounces of diced ham that was like in a bag in the door of my refrigerator. Like,
by the way, it was right next to the giant hunk of ham. Like the hunk of ham was in the door, and the little baggie of ham was in the door, and there was a thing of pickles.
Richard wants a snack, not he's gonna eat this is his final meal for the next 24 hours.
Because that same day, I think that was the day that I brought you Chipotle, and then I thought someone had also brought you dinner.
No, that was
the last meal was the Chipotle. So then you were like, yeah, bring me some ham and some pickles. And I was also bringing you some other stuff from here. And so I was thinking like, oh, he just wants like a little snack or whatever. Because I was
little snack.
I wasn't realizing you were like, this is the last time I'm able to eat. Bring me a giant fucking hunk of ham. Like I just saw the ham was like already diced up in a little baggie. I'm like, oh, that ham.
Yup. Anyway, so they come in at like 3:00 the next day, and the vascular doctor was like, all right, we can't operate on you. It's too extensive.
And it wasn't that when they realized it was in both legs too?
Yeah, and that's what he's like, yeah, it's not just in your left leg, it's all the way up to your hip. In your left leg, it crosses over to the hip into your right leg. He goes, and it goes all the way up into your abdomen. He goes, and it's entangled inside of the filter. He's like,
I didn't even know that.
He goes, yeah. He's like, the filter is the only reason you're alive. He's like, or this blood clot would have like kept going and killed you. And
Holy
I was
shit.
like, oh, cool, great, nice, wonderful.
Where is the filter? Where does it sit?
It's the middle of my chest, abdomen somewhere.
Below the heart somewhere.
Yeah, below the heart.
But is it on the vein side where it's coming back to the heart?
It's an IVC filter, and IVC stands for something.
Intravenous.
But I think it's the particular vein. It's like there's two veins, one that like goes like away from your heart, and then one that goes into your heart. It's
I think the vein is the one that goes into your heart, and the other, the artery is the thing that goes away.
Okay.
I could be wrong about that, but I think veins are blue because it's the bad blood that's coming back to your heart.
I don't recall, but that sounds correct.
Yeah, I don't know.
That sounds correct. It's in one. It was in the big tubes. And,
one of the big fat tubes.
And he also said, he goes, yeah, this is actually not a new clot. This is a chronic one. He goes, this has been inside of you for years. He's like, we can tell because a lot of it is calcified, because they did like a CT scan. He's like, a lot of it is calcified. He goes, your veins, or your smaller veins, or the
little arteries that like branch off the main tree.
Yeah, he goes, they have taken over the job. He's like, we can't find a pulse in your foot, but your foot is full of blood and it's warm. So that means that the veins have remapped. And he goes, and that doesn't happen overnight. He goes, that takes years to happen.
So basically the main tree trunk had gotten so stopped up that the roots were like taking over the main job.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and he goes, and your right leg isn't showing any symptoms. He's like, and that's the side we'd have to go into. He's like, and this isn't no little machine. He's like, it's the size of my pinky. And
it's going into a vein that's probably
and it's going
a couple of millimeters.
And it's going to just like, grind everything up and suck it out. And he's like, we can't go in and around your filter because that would mess it up too. He's like, it's too extensive to operate on. He's like, and I make my money doing this. He's like, I would make money
doing the surgery.
Operate on you. He's like, but if you were my family member, I would tell you don't operate on it. We just need to put you on like high dose blood thinners and get you like at a therapeutic level. And then over time, years, it'll, slowly kind of absorb back into the body, and, your veins will, and your arteries will kind of just do what they're already starting to do. And, you'll pretty much, have to be on blood thinners for the rest of your life because clearly you have a problem with chronic clotting and you didn't even know about it. And I'm like, cool. So basically I had this thing in me for the past who knows how many years with no symptoms, that whenever I got hit by the car and the trauma happened to the leg,
and the rest of your body, to be frank.
Well, yeah, and the rest of my body, because the rest of my body did get jacked up, and my right wrist, along with there's a lot of other things.
There was a lot of recovery that needed to happen everywhere, and probably that meant lots of extra blood shit.
Yeah, being moved around, but basically like the tibia getting smashed, and then all the trauma. And if you guys remember from the recovery vlog video, how bruised the back of my legs were, and how inflamed it was. So like all this blood was pooling in my legs, and it had nowhere to go because the big tubes couldn't suck and blow all the blood in and out of the system. It was a mess. So some of them were new clots, but a lot of them are old clots, and it was so extensive. So like I'm sitting there going,
it's almost kind of like a parallel with a spinal cord injury. It's like, when you have an incomplete spinal cord injury, like all this, there's big signal from the top trying to get down to the bottom, and it's just trickling real small.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was just kind of one of those things where I'm sitting here like, okay, so we know what's causing the fever is the blood clots. We can't operate on it. So what do we do? Because I'm still having fevers.
Right. And they're kind of just like, well, we can't do anything, so see ya.
Yeah, they're like, well, you got to just start taking blood thinners. And I'm like, yeah, I know that, but like I still, like the original problem why I came in
I'm still running fevers, and I'm still having giant pain attacks, so
yeah,
what the fuck?
Like
I can't just live.
Like, it's like clockwork, like every 4 hours, like da-da-da-da. Like I got so in tune that one time my temperature was only 0.1 degree higher than it normally is. And I like hit up the nurse and I was like, hey, I got a fever now. And she was like, took my vitals, and she was like, yep, you are 0.1 degree. And I'm like, cool, can I have Tylenol now? And she's like, no, it's not actually a fever. So we
could just be an anomaly.
She's like, so we can't medicate you. And I'm like, give me medicine now, please. I'm like, I'm going to suffer. I was like, because it takes 30 minutes to kick in. I was like, this is what's going to happen. Over the next 30 minutes, I'm going to go up 2 more degrees. Watch, it's going to happen. And then you're going to take my temperature again. I'm going to be at 101. And then you're going to give me the Tylenol. And then by the time the Tylenol kicks in, I'm going to be at 102. And then it's going to slowly start trickling its way down. And then I just spent an hour and a half in extreme pain, headache, backache, neck ache, nausea, sweating, like pain, just because you can't give me something right now. Please give it to me. Like, oh, sorry, we can't do it. Like, it was just like.
And sure enough.
That's exactly what happened. Like, there was one point where like, I went 2 days without a fever, and like one of the doctors came in, I was like, all right, you're good to go, no more fevers. And I'm like, it's because I've been medicated. I'm like, it's because I'm staying on top of having Tylenol in my system. And they're like, oh, well, all right, we're just going to take all your Tylenol away and see if you still have fevers. And sure shit, kept having fevers. And it was just so annoying, man. There was so many things that like kept going wrong.
The main thing that was just ridiculous. Number one, this hospital was way better than the last hospital. Let's get that straight for sure.
I would mark this one a 9 out of 10 compared to the 3 out of 10.
Yeah,
that the previous hospital.
And we even talked to a nurse that said that she worked at that other one for a little bit,
and she said she had to get out because it was so toxic.
Yeah,
she's like, I could. She's
like it wasn't just us.
She's like, yeah, I felt like I was a good nurse and that I had a duty to like help these patients that really needed it because it's like a really hard facility and a lot of really hard nurses. She's like, but after a while, I realized that little old me couldn't do enough to save the place, so I just had to go because it was too toxic.
Yeah, literally. And it's like, jeez.
Yeah.
Even the nurses, and that's why probably all the nurses there suck because all the good ones end up leaving because they can't stand it.
Yeah. It's like same thing with like you
gotta burn the place to the ground and start over.
my primary care physician did his residency there and he apologized to me. He's like, I'm sorry you had to go there. He's like, I was there for 3 years and it was a hell of an experience.
Yeah, I bet.
He goes,
3 freaking years?
I mean, residencies are a long time.
Mm-hmm. I know, but that would suck.
Yeah. So anyway, we're at this point where I'm like, okay, so I get sent home with fevers then, I guess. And
cool. That's why I came in here. Cool.
Yeah. So that's what it is. It's like I'm still at night getting fevers. I take Advil right before I go to bed. I turn my air down, but I still wake up in a puddle of sweat and I'm like, cool, this is great, Here's another thing is like that annoys the shit out of me about a lot of medical professionals, nurses especially, don't understand spinal cord injury at all.
And especially yours, which is kind of like a unique kind where it's like, wait, you're in a wheelchair? Wait, you can walk a little bit? Wait, what the heck? Like it's just confusing. No,
but I mean simple things like bowel, bladder, skin care, like those type of things. Like it was to the point where they like put some like TED hose on me, which is like a compression stocking, and
it goes all the way up to your crotch, basically.
And then overnight, it like gave me a skin sore and like ripped off a part of my skin because I was doing my skin checks the next morning, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And I had this like quarter-sized like skin rip
on the side of you.
Yeah, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Like I was like, "I can't." What? And I was like, "Why did they put these on me? What the hell?" Like I was so annoyed because I didn't know.
You texted us, and you were just like, "Cool."
Dude, I was so like there was so many things that kept going not right, and I kept feeling really defeated, and I felt like no one was listening to me, and I felt like they just wanted to kick me out even though I was still miserable and sick. It was just like this big mess of a deal. And again, not talking trash on the hospital. Hospital's great, but it just is like I'm probably on the side of the physicians because like look at the empirical data. If I were to look at my chart and read it and be like, yeah, it's time for him to go, but like it wasn't time for me to go.
Yeah.
And it was just annoying, man. Like wound care came in and they looked at it and they were like, I'm shocked that this happened to you. Like no one should have ever put those things on you. Let me see them. No. And like even the like vascular doctor was like, oh, these are crap. No one should have ever put these on you. Like you need to get like nicer ones. And he like suggested which kind I get. He's like, and it shouldn't have gone that high. And I'm sorry. It literally happened in 8 hours. In 8 hours, I had a rip of my, like a quarter size rip of my skin.
It was like raw skin.
And then had like blisters everywhere. And like, so the wound care guy came in and like.
Also, the best was they didn't want you to wear pants and stuff. Remember when you when I got there and you were like, dude, they won't let me put on pants.
Yeah.
You were just hanging out with like your dick out.
Yeah, because they kept having to come like look at my leg and like touch my leg. So every time I put on my socks and put on my pants, they'd come in and be like, all right, take off your socks and your pants. So they'd take off my socks and my pants and be like, all right, we'll be right back. And like 30 minutes later, they wouldn't be back. So I'm like, okay, I'm freezing. So I'd put my socks and my pants back on. They'd come back in 30, 45 minutes later and be like, all right, let's see your socks and your pants. And then they eventually get to the point like, quit putting your pants on. And I'm like, quit telling me you're going to be back in a minute.
Bring me a blanket.
Like I'm freezing, dude. It was...
The best is when you had those white compression sock things on, but no underwear. So it looked like you had pants, but you could just like lift up your shirt and fucking calf.
No, dick.
There's just dick there.
Just dick right there.
And wasn't there something in the beginning when you were like naked in the hallway and there was just people like walking past or something in the very beginning?
It's one of the things that annoys me the most about like being in hospital sometimes is when they knock, they're not waiting for you to say, come in.
They're just letting you know they're coming in.
They're like, hey, we're about to barge in here. So I could be in the middle of like peeing or doing a bowel program or just sitting there naked, and some doctor would just knock and walk in and just start talking to me with my balls out, like my finger up my butt. And I'm like, is this brother? Can I have like 5 seconds of consent, you know?
Right.
There was also so many times when I'd like go to like x-ray or like get a CT scan or something where like people would just like walk behind me and be like, where are your push handles? And I'm like, why are you walking behind me? Like, don't push me. Like, look at this wheelchair for 5 seconds and look, it's not one that you can push. Like I'd be like talking to me like, all right, so we're going to x-ray. I'm like, okay, cool. And they'd start to walk behind me. So I'd like turn to be like, I guess we're going this way. And they would like spin around in a circle. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? They're like, oh, I'm trying to grab you to push you. I'm like, I'll follow you. Like, clearly I can propel this on my, like, it's down a long hallway. It's far. And I'm like, don't worry. I pushed a 10K recently. Like, I'm fine. Like, Jesus. Yeah.
It's a long hallway.
Also, they were so like,
that's funny.
Didn't believe me when I'm like, oh no, I can transfer. I'm fine. And they're like, oh, you sure you don't need any help? You need assistance? I'm like, no, I can transfer. Thank you. They're like, all right, well, be careful. Just, we got to do it. Like, leave me alone. Like at one point they were like, you need to put on our anti-slip socks. And I'm like, yeah. So in case I don't slip and fall when I'm walking. I'm like, your socks suck. Your hospital socks are so.
No, they pointed at your socks. They're like, you should be wearing our socks. And you're like, oh, those are my socks. And they're like, are they anti-slip? You're like, no.
And they're like, you need to put on some anti-slips. And I was like, yeah, for when I'm
just
walking.
Look at them. For when I'm walking. You're the idiot, not me. Don't forget that.
Don't forget it.
That's like when Ryan Seacrest tried to shake the hand of the blind guy. Or what was the other one recently? Joe Biden or something. He told some guy in a wheelchair to stand up so they could recognize him at like a Medal of Honor ceremony or something.
I don't
know.
He
was getting like the Purple Heart or some shit, and he's like, stand up so we can see you. And he's in a wheelchair because he got fucking like injured in the military.
Jesus.
So
I am not surprised. Some of these politicians are so tone deaf.
Stand up so we can say, I'm sorry. Everyone stand up for him. Or something like that. It was messed up.
Uncle Joe's got problems.
Dude, Uncle Joe needs to go to a freaking nursing home. I'm sorry.
Yeah, man. But it was it was terrible. I had a very hard time, like mentally and emotionally, and like I was going through it, man, because I was like in constant nonstop pain. I had just got out of the hospital like just recently, and
yeah, I know, and everyone's like, oh, things are doing good, blah blah blah, like YouTube, everyone's like, oh, glad to see you out.
Yeah, and things are improving, and I was going to physical therapy, and like now I'm back in there for like this problem that I'm gonna have for the rest of my life, which that is not cool, like
yeah.
The blood.
But at least they caught it,
Yeah, the blood thinners that they prescribed me were too expensive for me to afford, so I have to take like the cheapest.
Not even just too expensive to afford, too expensive for life. They were like $48,000. Weren't they? Wasn't that the right thing?
No, not the ones that I needed to take.
Oh, okay. What was the deal with that?
There was some that were $48,000. There was some that 6,000. Some that was 4,000, 3,000. The ones I needed to take were $700
a month
for the first 2 months until I hit a deductible or something, and then they went to $400 a month, which how can anybody afford that? And they're like, oh, well, it's light maintenance. You don't have to get your blood checked regularly. And I'm like, yeah, but that's $400 a month. Like, I can't do that. No.
Because the other ones you'd have to like check in with someone like daily or something?
No, it's not daily. The ones I have now are free. My insurance covers them 100%. They're free.
I thought the ones that we ended up happening with CVS, they quoted the wrong price or whatever.
Those, don't get me started on those. Those are just like the ones to bridge me over.
Okay.
The ones that I paid $168 for 14 syringes, when less than a month ago I paid $35 for 40 of them. So don't get me
medicine
fucking started on that bullshit, dude. And then so the blood thinners that I'm on for long term, but it's literally rat poison. It started out as rat poison, like because the rats eat it and then it makes their blood so thin they bleed internally from the inside out and die.
Fun.
Yeah, so it's called Coumadin or warfarin, and it's very like you can't have anything high in vitamin K, so any greens, grapefruit, orange juice, cranberry juice, stuff like that.
Wait, so, say that again. It's high in what?
Vitamin K.
So you can't have anything that you just mentioned because if you do, it'll put you over or something?
Over or under, it'll mess with my levels. Like, think about this. It's so...
Another thing you can't eat. Cool.
Yeah, I know, right? It's another thing that's like dangerous because you have to get your blood monitored like every week for the first like period of time, and then you go to every 2 weeks, and then you go to every month, and then you like stabilize, but then you have to make sure that you don't add anything new to your diet or take anything out, and like you have to be careful of anything that like causes you to bleed. Like they're like, instead of using a straight razor blade, you have to use an electric razor, and be careful with scissors, and don't do any activities that might hurt you. And like you can,
because you could bleed out.
Dude, I could literally bite my lip and it would bleed for a day straight.
Really?
Like it's like your blood becomes like water. Like you get really,
and you're just gonna be like that for like a long ass time.
I mean,
potentially
my life. Yeah, it's called an anticoagulant. Like coagulation just means clotting. So it's like if you cut yourself, then you just don't like. I couldn't get tattooed. I don't think.
Wow.
So I would just bleed and bleed and bleed and bleed.
Shit, I didn't even thought about that.
Yeah,
that fucking sucks.
Yeah. So there's fucking Christ.
I'll just have to get all your tattoos for you. So like what you want to get, I'll just get them on you, and then you can.
I'll let you do my right sleeve. It's gonna be black and white. Not really. I don't. Dude, I got no desire to do any more tattoos, man. For now, at least. I mean, I've been
only temporary tattoos.
If anyone's on TikTok, you know what's up with that.
Jeez. But yeah, that sucks. So, but when you finally got discharged, like they were kind of just trying to like kick you out. It seemed like
they just wanted me out of there because I was not okay with leaving with the same symptoms I went in with. I just wasn't okay.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? But
whatever. I actually appealed the discharge. Like I called like my insurance company.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think that I should be discharged right now. And then they like reviewed my medical records and then called me a day after I'd been discharged to be like, we reviewed your medical records and we agree that you.
But you'd already actually been.
But I was already gone.
I thought you were, because I remember you were like, I'm safe for 24 hours or something, but that wasn't really the case.
Yeah.
There's something I'm trying to find here so pardon me for a second.
Yeah, no dead air. But basically, like, it's something that's going to just kind of alter a lot of things for a while. I'm still fixing this left leg problem. Physical therapy is such a joke, man. Like, just in general, it's like you go to this place and they're like, okay, well, like, just do these stretches and these exercises that you could definitely do at home by yourself. Anyway, it's like being with going to physical therapy is so annoying because it's like I'm paying, or my insurance is paying like $100 or $200 an hour for you to just like tell me what to do. Like, I'll do this on my own. Like, I know how to do this. Like, like I know how to do these exercises to strengthen these muscles. Like, this isn't my first friggin' rodeo.
Jeez.
But it's just frustrating, man. And then like what one of the vascular doctors recommended that'll help with the blood clot and just like with my rehab from my knee anyways, to do some work in the pool. So the past 2 days I've been jumping in the pool at the gym and just like walking up and down, and then like laterally moving like left and right and like doing kicks and like knee raises and
But you said it feels good, better, like
because I'm
feels
not
nice
I'm
to
not
actually move.
I'm not, like my whole body was so tight, and even specifically my low back, that like I couldn't even crack it. It was so tight, like it was binded. It was like binding tight. So like today was the first day I was on the foam roller that I was able to even get it to crack once, down towards like my low back and my hips. And then when it went,
and you're like,
it went, and I was like, oh. I started like panting, and I was like, oh Jesus, it feels so good.
Dude, the best was the other day when you were using your little vibrator.
Oh shit.
Okay, so
Andrew, paint this picture. All right. So one of the muscles that's really really tight for me right now is my adductor. So that's the muscles that squeeze your knees together. So if you're like,
those are on the inside.
yeah. So if you're like a wheelchair user and you put a water bottle between your legs and you're like me and have some function, you can squeeze it together. Those muscles. So basically from like the inside,
basically the inner crotch area,
the inside of your crotch, all the way to the inside of your knees. And it's been to the point where I'm like laying on my belly and like stretching them out and like, you know, massaging them with my hand. And then the other day I was on my bed and then Andrew walked in and was like,
no.
What's going on?
That's not what happened. So it was me and your mom were at your over here. Your mom was making food, and Richard is on his bed, laying back with his legs like spread open like this, right? And which not that weird. He's like, you know, stretching, whatever. But then he proceeds to get out his Hitachi wand. It's not really a Hitachi wand, but it's like a little handheld massager that we recommended in the Christmas video, and starts like putting it like right near his crotch, but like from the angle that we're at, like we can't tell like where exactly it's massaging.
So
you start moaning.
So for those of you who don't know, my bedroom and my kitchen are in the same room. Like my bedroom is in the living room, and the living room is in the same room as the kitchen. So it's all like one space. And like I'm laying on my back, like I'm kind of like
you're literally just spread eagle
in a butterfly stretch, and I'm like, and I hit a part that was like really sensitive, and I was like,
and I was like, if I didn't know any better, I'd be thinking you're doing a little something else over there, Richard.
Well, what's funny is because
it was funny.
They were far enough away to like see what was up, but they weren't close enough to see like where the massager was massaging. They just saw that it was in my general crotchal region.
Your genital
my genital
your genital area
region.
The genital region.
Yeah,
it was very funny.
Yeah.
Okay, I actually wanted to show this article that I saw on Facebook, or not an article, but it was a commentary on an article that I saw on Facebook, and it has to do with hospital stuff, because it's actually really interesting. Because CNN ran this report that the not the thumbnail, the title of the headline of the article is "Woman in Hospital Gown Left at Bus Stop." CNN video. And it's this lady who's in like hospital garb, with like, it looks like she had one of those face masks on that's like hanging around her neck, and with like, you know, hospital bracelets on. She's literally just out in the cold, like outside the bus stop. And it's like, what the heck? How could this happen? Our medical system is so messed up, blah, 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 blah.
It's more complicated than that.
Yeah. So
it's way more. I think I might have read something about
this. This is like a repost from this lady, but it said, okay, so imagine you're a nurse in the ER with no free beds, all critical patients, and in walks, quote unquote, frequent flyer. We will call her Nancy. Nancy is known to every hospital in the area as a chronically med-seeking and sometimes homeless, and comes to your ER at least once a week. Nancy requests admission for her chronic back pain, and when she's told that she's not getting narcotics or an admission, she begins verbally abusing the staff. She presses the call light repeatedly and demands to see a supervisor if she isn't given a meal and an overnight stay with some Percocets. She knows her rights, and it isn't going anywhere because she doesn't have to. It's cold, and this week she's homeless, so, quote unquote, you fuckers better find me a bed. My pain is 10 out of 10. Saying all the right things, dude, because that's one thing about pain is you can't measure it. You can only tell people what your pain is.
Yes.
So her pain is 10 out of 10, so you fuckers better find me a bed. She doesn't care that the bed next door is a 39-year-old who just suffered a catastrophic stroke, or that an 89-year-old mother of 6 is trying to talk to her dying husband in the next bed. Nancy does not take the offer of shelter placement, the only 1 in 5 that will still take her because she's burned all of her bridges, and none of her family will respond because they understand she struggles but don't have the emotional energy or the resources to deal with her. Makes sense. So Nancy's given her clothes, or there are 4 patients that are actually ill that are waiting, and the supervisor is circling you to tell you to get her out. So Nancy is given her clothes, a cab voucher, a bagged lunch, and told to hit the road. She refuses. She refuses to change out of her gown and chucks the bagged lunch at her nurse's head while screaming at everyone. Security is called because not only are we wasting resources, beds, staff's time, and care that could be given to other patients, but the verbal abuse has now escalated to physical abuse of the staff. Remember, and basically it goes on, said she basically gets wheeled out to the door and escorted out of the building with her belongings by 5 security guards. Remember, Nancy could have been dressed warm in a paid-for cab and headed to a shelter to sleep. We fulfilled the safe discharge condition of care, but we cannot force a patient to accept it. A bystander sees this exchange, starts taping and asking questions, and security literally cannot respond because of HIPAA violations, and the video goes viral.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's unfortunate that in the end, the hospital had to apologize.
It's so messed up, dude, because there are bad actors that take advantage of the system. And I'm not saying it's Nancy's fault either, but
all of a sudden Nancy's the victim.
Yeah.
All of a sudden Nancy's the victim when she's a victim of herself.
Totally.
She's a victim of her choices. She's a victim of a lot of things. And it's like, ooh, what gets caught in a clip and posted on YouTube, it's like, how dare someone would do this to someone else?
They just kicked this lady out the hospital. I saw him. I took the video of the whole thing. 5 security guards kicked her out. She wasn't even wearing her clothes.
They just wheeled her out. It's like, ugh.
She was kicking and screaming the whole time, saying she didn't want to go. Obviously, something's wrong. And it's like, jeez, dude.
It's so much more complicated than that.
Literally, she's just homeless and wants drugs and
food and a bed. Yeah.
It's messed up, dude. And it's like, what can we do? And it's funny because we've gotten texts, like you've gotten texts recently about like, dude, I was watching your recovery vlog and you were talking about medicine prices. What the heck? Like, you have to pay for medicine over in America? Like, that's messed up.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Literally.
To be like, wait a minute, you said it cost how much? And I'm like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's messed up because, like, on one hand, you know, everyone should have access to healthcare, but at the same time, when there's people like Nancy that end up taking advantage of the system, it's like, well, are we just paying for these types of people to just like take advantage, you know?
Well, one thing that I find interesting about America is we have this thing called insurance. Insurance is a pool that we all pay into, and then the people that need the care receive the benefits, right? Mm-hmm. And insurance is basically something that someone for 40 or 50 years of their life can pay $1,000 a year, and then there's $50,000, but then there's someone who in 1 year might get really sick and need $50,000 worth of care. So it makes sense. Insurance companies are kind of similar to what like socialism might look like.
Yeah.
Everyone out there. So what I always get annoyed at is when people who are like, free healthcare is socialism, we're not a socialist country. And it's like, yeah, but insurance is the same thing. It's like, instead of having to pay, you know, an insurance company $400 a month, why don't I just out of my taxes pay $400 a month and get the exact same thing? You know, granted, it's way more complicated than that.
And also, it's like we're trusting the government versus a private company to deal with all this stuff, and we don't trust the government.
I don't trust the government. I don't trust government-run hospitals. They're the worst. You know,
exactly.
It's much more complicated than that. But what I'm saying is, like, it's so not socialism. In the same way that, like, I get
it's democratic socialism.
It's democratic socialism.
It's not just pure socialism.
Like, I always get a kick out of it when there's like farmers that are like anti-socialism but take stipends. I'm like, you're receiving $50,000 a year to like plant corn, and you're okay receiving that because the government then sells that corn to schools. What? But you're not okay with healthcare? Like, I'm very confused right now. Like,
yeah,
you talk about anti-socialism, but like, dude, you are a part of socialism. Like, you're taking government assistance. Like, that's literally what socialism is.
Yeah. I think it's also more just about people getting on a team and then not wanting to waver from that team. You know, because it's like,
are you team left? Or are you team right? Are you team donkey? Or are you team elephant? What about team blue versus team red? It's like,
yeah. Well,
how about not fucking team anything?
Yeah. Well,
how about I'm on team me? I'm going to make the best decisions that are going to benefit me.
Exactly.
Because I'm going to vote for the people that are going to represent me and help me in my life. And everyone should do that.
Exactly. And it's funny because there's all these videos about like going up to Bernie supporters and telling them and asking them the policies, but actually explaining Trump policies. Got them. And it's like, you know, there's just too much information out there to know what's even going on. Like, you can't be expected to know everything.
They run into 18-year-olds in colleges anyway.
And they're like, do you like this policy? It's actually Bernie Sanders' new policy. Yeah, that sounds like a great policy. I'm actually in big support of that policy. Psych, it was actually Trump's policy. Pew, 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 pew. And it's like, dude, if you just put out Trump's policies or Bernie's policies or whatever on paper, or Andrew Yang's policies on paper, it's like 9 out of 10 people would probably be like, yeah, that sounds pretty reasonable. Like, these people aren't like crazy whack jobs. I mean, well, whatever. But like the policies themselves are not like the craziest ideas in the world. Like, I mean, even Andrew Yang has some like crazy things, like where he thinks like, you know, police officers should be purple belts in jiu-jitsu, and like he wants to give everyone $1,000 a month, like all these kind of wacko ideas. But on the surface, you're kind of like, yeah, that actually is kind of a cool idea once you kind of break it down, or, just trying to shake things up. Cause I think the way that things have been going, they're fine. I think they could be better, but also our system's not fully broken to the point where we need to like throw out the baby with the bathwater kind of thing. But it's just weird.
I think the biggest challenge is just simply the size of our country.
Yeah.
We're a 3.5 million deep country, and democracy is very difficult in a
3.5 million.
I'm sorry,
300.
350 million.
I
don't know. I saw 3.5 in my head. 350 million country, and,
that's not right.
democracy is very hard. I mean, look at Australia. Australia's the same thing. It's a huge country that has
way less people.
Way less people, but again, democracy is very hard there. But then you look at China that has billions of people, and it looks like communism is the only way that it's keeping anyone in check. In a very messed up kind of way. It's like, who murdered who? Let's not get mixed up in who murdered who. You know what I mean? It's like, how about that doctor who blew the whistle on coronavirus that mysteriously died of coronavirus? It's like, how about all those camps you got all those Muslims in? China. It's kind of messed up. I mean, look at Russia, same idea. It's like pretty much the only way, quote unquote, to like make things perfect, and it's like the opposite of perfect, is to rule with the iron fist. Yeah. And that doesn't work. I mean,
people are imperfect, so you can't expect there to be a perfect system.
Yeah.
That's the hard thing.
Democracy is very difficult, especially in a big country like the U.S.
Yeah, but that's, I guess, why we have states. But, it's like, should all the states be separate? Because it's kind of like the EU, right? The EU has their own rules, but then each country has their own rules. It's kind of the same way like United States is. Like the United States, we're united because we all have the same like general federal rules and federal government and currency and all that, but within the states, we let them run their own little microcosms and their own little test trials and all that.
Autonomy, yeah, exactly.
So it kind of works in that way, but there are, the system's not perfect, but I mean, it works for now.
You know what bothers me? I hate that, what I'm about to say, because it might paint me as something I'm so not, but like, I love the idea of states' rights.
What do you mean?
What the Confederacy was fighting for. They were fighting to keep their slaves. I mean, let's not get it twisted. They were fighting to keep their slaves, but I very much believe in state rights. I think
like they could override the federal rules.
I think states should be able to do whatever the fuck they want to do.
As long as you vote in that state.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you don't like it, you could like move out of that state. I mean, I know that's not the most, I guess like, I don't even know what the right word is, but it's like, I get it that not everyone can just pack up and leave, and not everyone wants to pack up and leave, but that's what happens
I think
sometimes.
It incentivizes you to vote because then you are more personally affected by it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in Texas, they kept the death penalty, and they're like, screw you, we're going to keep killing people. And then Colorado's like, well, you know what? If you're going to keep killing people, we're going to start selling them weed, man.
Not only that, selling them mushrooms and shit.
Now selling them mushrooms, and it's like, I love the idea of each state being able to do whatever the fuck they want to do. Now, obviously, with some oversight, like I don't like the idea of the, slaves and the Confederacy. And anytime someone says states' rights, it's like, oh,
the South will rise again.
It's like, oh, so you mean slaves? Like that's what you meant.
Yeah. Well, the hard thing about that too, about being like, well, if you don't like it here, then you can move. It's like the same kind of thing of like, if we all just go into our own little pockets of like, well, all the people that think this way live here, and all the people that live this way live here, and you know what I mean? Like,
it's already kind of like that, though.
It is already kind of like that, but we become even more segmented, and you start to think more of like, this person is other versus like, this person is my neighbor. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
All the Californians can go fuck themselves. If you're from California, get the fuck out of here, you dumbass hippies. And it's like,
well, what part of California?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like the same thing. You can make generalizations about a lot of different places, but when we think of those generalizations, we're probably mainly thinking of like the most stereotypical like white person from that state or whatever. We're not thinking about all these other people, like where do they fall into this and where do they go? And like, it gets kind of like not dangerous, but when we're expecting people to like just move around the country based on what they believe in or what they think or whatever, that's like not very inclusive or whatever.
I'm not saying people should leave, but it's like the way I think about it is like people in the Pacific Northwest and people in the Northeast are very different. People in southern U.S. and on southeast and southwest are two very different people, and it's like, you know, go to where your people are. But I think for me, more importantly, I think about cities, you know, like, I mean, that's how it's supposed to go, right? It's supposed to go, you know, country, state, county, city, you know, like you're supposed to get like smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. But I think about like Atlanta is not Georgia at all.
True that.
Like Atlanta is so not Georgia. You know, like without Atlanta, we'd be Alabama, dead ass. Like,
oh, for sure.
Like Atlanta is not. So like to think that people are like, oh, you're from the South. I'm like, no, I'm from Atlanta. Like I'm not from the South. You know, and I think about people that are like,
listen to our voices.
It's like, oh yeah, exactly. They're like, oh, you're from California. Well, I don't like those hippie dippies. And it's like, you know, I live up north. Like I live in the mountains. Like I don't live next to like LA. Yeah. Like it's too bright and polluted down there. You know, it's like too many. I don't know. That's the one thing that confused me so much. Everyone's like, California is so liberal. It's like, no. LA is very liberal. And it's like the unfortunate.
So it's like San Francisco and San Diego.
Yeah, it's like the unfortunate reality is like the huge major cities that have the biggest voting power turn that state blue, when in reality there's a lot of red that lives in that state.
Very true.
A lot.
Same
of
with
red.
like New York though. I mean that's just the way it is. Typically cities are liberal, typically rural is conservative.
Yeah.
Like that's just kind of how it goes. So it's like if you've got a state with like large population, you know. And I think like New York, you know, New York State versus New York, you know, upstate versus like city, totally different. Yeah.
Different. Yeah, but I mean, I think all in all, it's just like, it's complicated, man. But I personally believe so much in personal autonomy that it's like, I like free market capitalism. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, there's aspects of everything.
I like personal autonomy. You know, I'm not going to go full like libertarian, you know, and be like, well, I don't need a driver's license or a registration to drive a car that I own. The government needs to stay out of my business. It's like, no, I'm not saying that, you know. Like,
the thing is with libertarian stuff for me that I fall into it, and I agree with a lot of it, is as long as I'm not hurting anyone else or infringing on anyone else's liberties, because the liberty means being able to do whatever you want, right? Mm-hmm. I have the liberty to walk down the street. I have the liberty to, you know, own a house, whatever. As long as my form of liberty is not infringing on anyone else's form of liberty, aka, you know, I could go out and get gay married. You know, that's not infringing on anyone else's ability to get straight married.
But what about child porn? Is that okay?
No, because that's infringing on that child's liberty to
exactly.
Like that's exactly. You can't go out and kill people because that is now I do not have the liberty of living, you know?
Yes.
Like as long as you keep to yourself and everyone kind of does their own thing, like everyone should be able to do whatever they want to do.
As long as you're
that's the libertarian that I believe in.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's like as long as you're not hurting anybody else. And I think about it
that's the whole thing with like weed, dude. It's like as long as you're not hurting anybody and you're just sitting in your house smoking weed, like go have fun.
And as long as you're not like especially hurting yourself, I think.
Yeah.
Like, you know, not ruining your jobs or your relationships or whatever. But I mean, I think coming from someone who's got like a history in drug addiction, man, like, dude, let's legalize it. Like, let's make it.
If alcohol is legal, like
that's what I'm saying.
That's the thing, dude. It's governmental paternalism. We don't need the government telling us what we should and should not do.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly feel like it's kind of like when you get told as a kid, don't speed. You're like, oh, I got to speed now. You know, it's like, don't do drugs. Like, oh, I got to do drugs now. And it's like, heroin is illegal. You go to jail. It's like, well, I might want to try it.
It's human nature. It's literally Adam and Eve. Like, don't eat that. You can eat everything in the whole garden, but don't eat that one fruit. I'm going to go eat that one fruit because it sounds real good. I'm
going to go eat that one fruit. You know, so I feel the same way. It's like, yeah, we need to kind of just like, and this is, again, this libertarian free market capitalism utopia that lives in my brain, but it's like, that's how I operate, you know, in my own life. It's like I want to do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it, and I want to have all the creative freedom and all the autonomy, and I want to make sure that I'm being the best person I possibly can, and I'm not hurting anybody else. If anything, I'm helping other people and I'm adding value, and it's like those are the things that matter to me. So it would be cool if, you know, other people could get on the same fucking page. And it's like, you do whatever you want to do as long as it's not hurting anybody else. It's not infringing on everybody else. You know?
Well, I mean, life doesn't come with a roadmap. Life doesn't come with like an instruction manual. You got to figure that shit out for yourself. And like, that's why we have parents. That's why we have leaders. That's why we have, you know, even the government or whatever. Like
mentors,
there are
peers, books,
and there
whatever.
are structures and there are things that are put in place that are universally accepted as like, yeah, you should do this, you should not do this. Like, this is the right way, this is the wrong way. You shouldn't kill
I think
people.
laws
you should
have their place.
Oh, for sure. Dude.
Laws
Like,
have their
anarchy
place.
is not cool.
Yeah, I think laws have their place, especially due to punishment. Like, there's a friend of mine I was talking to, and I was just kind of joking about. I was like, man, I wish we could just do whatever we want. I wish there was no like law or government. And I think people are like generally nice. And he's like, no. He's like, I studied law. He's like, I have a master's in law. He's like, law is the only thing that keeps the fabric of our societies together. And I was like, I don't know if I believe that, dude. I was like, I think people in general are generally kind and generally nice. And he goes, dude, I want you to go to Africa for like 1 week. He's like, I want you to just, he's like, you don't get it. He's like, you've only lived in the U.S. He's like, you don't know anything else. He's like, if you go to a place where there are no laws, he goes, those are the most like horrific, disgusting, vile, violent, horrendous, power-hungry places you can possibly get because everyone's trying to dominate everybody, and they just it's just crazy. And I was like, oh, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, well, also saying Africa is a pretty broad stroke because it's the #1 populated continent, and there's a lot of different countries in there, some of which do have laws. But
well, I mean,
agree.
that's what he's talking about. He's talking about just like
rural.
The fact that Africa, he said he meant to say that because it's a massive country.
Yeah,
and
it's not a country, continent.
Pardon me, massive continent, and that there is a lot of wild, wild west that still lives.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wild, wild west that
there's
still
lawlessness.
There's a lot of lawlessness
and indigenous people and like natives that just like live off the land and live in huts and shit. Like, I agree. It's not modern society. It's not westernized. I agree. But I'm saying, like, when you say Africa, it's just like people are like in Morocco are like, yo, what up? People in South Africa are like, yo, what are you talking about?
He just threw that out there as one of like the largest developing.
Yes,
you know.
But I agree. I think the thing about people generally being good, I agree with that. I just think a few bad apple can spoil the whole bunch. You know, it's like you got a big bushel of apples, you know, and most of them are good, but there's going to be 1 or 2 that ruin the whole freaking thing. And that's the same thing with people, dude, because people get jaded, people get jealous, people have that thing inside of them that makes them go berserk, that, you know, like
power and money, baby.
Yeah.
Control.
And I mean, you even look at our society with laws currently, and there's a lot of people with a lot of pent up resentments and, you know, anger. And, you know, that's why we're seeing so much like fucking school shootings and stuff like that, because there are these like angry people in our society that feel that they've been left out or they've been cast away or they're, you know, undesirable or whatever the case might be. And that's what I was kind of...
I mean, that movie Joker was kind of like that.
Yeah, dude.
The Joker was a beautiful representation of what modern society is.
Yeah, well, yes and no. But I think the thing about life not having a roadmap is the main thing about life is like, number one, you got like people want love, you know, they want to be loved, whether that's by like a couple of people, your family, whether that's, you know, chasing fame, success, attention, whatever.
Yeah, love and be loved are 2 very big needs.
Yes, to express love to people and then also to be loved back. That's an actual need. And that's why I think even in like the disability community, that's like a big thing that people people talk about it, but I feel like it could even be a bigger subject because I think sometimes that so much is based on like outward appearances that people with like disfigurements or like things like quote unquote wrong with their bodies like feel that on like a real hardcore level. I mean, I know that you've experienced that even just like being a wheelchair user, like you go out and you feel that you're being looked at a different way or that you're broken or whatever.
I am treated. You know what people think about you based on how they treat you. Dude, there's no way to like deny it. It's like,
yeah, it's true.
It's very easy to be like, oh, I know what they think about me.
Well, there's a reason why people treat like babies a different way. You know, you don't talk to a baby the same way that you talk to an adult. You give them the baby voice and blah, blah, blah. And that's how like sometimes people perceive the people with disabilities like, oh, I don't know if is it like partially like mental? Do I need to like talk to him slow and okay.
And loud.
Hey, Richard, we're gonna do this now. Is that okay? Oh, that's so, you know, like talking behind your back and stuff like that. It's just like so patronizing. But I mean,
even like body language and just like looks and points and stares and whispers and snickers. And it's like, you know, like the people that you'll like like they'll be walking towards you in a group and they'll be looking at you and then they'll look at each other and they'll like say something and it's like, gee, I wonder what they're fucking talking about, you know? It's like,
they like make this motion or some shit. For the audio listeners, I made a wheelchair movement with my hands rolling pushing the wheels.
Yeah.
But but the point that I was kind of making is like, everyone wants love, and then also you got to be able to like survive too. Like you can't just like live and just like your main pursuit is just like wanting to be loved and love and all that. You've also got to like find.
Some people try that.
Yeah, some people try that, and the thing is you have to find your value to the world as well, and
you
like
have to be a contributing member of society.
Yeah,
period.
but and not only that, but like not only just like being a good neighbor and like being a nice person, like you got to earn money in some way, and that's just how our society runs. We're not like running on like fucking bartering and stuff like that. Like we're not like trading goats and milk and shit.
I have 2 gold earrings. I will trade for one of your calves and a daughter.
Yeah, and people talk about, you know, like, oh, I'm losing my job. I was a coal miner for 30 years and now the jobs are just drying up, and it's like. That unfortunately, that's because the value to society has gone down for that thing that in your brain was a solid, you know, stable form of income. But then we found other means or whatever, you know, or like Macy's is like, you know, closing tons of their stores and changing their thing, and like thousands of people will be out of jobs, and like a lot of those people will be able to pivot and transfer over to other retail positions or other office jobs or whatever. But like, nothing is like guaranteed. Nothing is solid. So you got to find that thing that like makes you valuable to society in a way that no one else can do. And that's hard to find. And like, luckily the two of us have like found each other in a weird way. Like your value to society is you're making educational content for wheelchair users and other people, and just like being inspiring and showing people that you can live an awesome life even with the disability and all these things. And then my value to that is that I'm the guy that like is behind the scenes, and like none of that would happen without me.
You're capturing it and you're packaging it and you're delivering it in such a way that like strengthens the story.
Yeah, but not only that, like I'm uniquely qualified to do that because I'm also like your friend, and I know you like.
You know what I'm trying to say.
Exactly.
You know the story.
Yeah. We hang out enough that I know your language. I know how you talk. I know how you think. Like we're always bouncing ideas off each other. It's not just like I'm the camera guy and then I edit it, and then like we like literally you've only made like one revision ever that was like one thing, you know, on the videos.
One or two.
One or two maybe, but that's so minimal.
Two. And it was something that I watched. I was like, I know what I was trying to say. You know what I was trying to say, but the people listening are not going to know what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
So we need to just like chop out that 1 3-second thing. And then like, or there was one time I was like, oh, that's hilarious. But like, we know this is going to reach a lot of people and that will turn a lot of people off.
Yeah.
So like, let's change this scene to that scene. And like,
is that the one with the Tourette's guy?
Yeah.
Funny.
There was one like little cutaway we did with the Tourette's guy that was just, if anyone's been on YouTube forever and you don't know who Tourette's guy is, it was
the scene where he's holding the hot pot.
Yeah.
And he walks in and he goes, fuck, 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 fuck. And he drops the pot and hits his head on the chandelier. And it was in the video where it's the one that went crazy viral, has like 1.8 million views. And you're like,
we changed it.
Yeah, we changed it to putting his hand on a hot handle from Home Alone.
Yeah. And I think it was one of those things that like, I'm glad we also pulled it out too, because Tourette's guy is so insensitive to people with Tourette's, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
but it's also inaccurate.
I mean, it's super inaccurate, obviously, because it's just like, it was like some guy who filmed his dad and would just upload it to YouTube in like 2005.
Well, the guy didn't even have Tourette's. It was all scripted.
It was all like a, hi, I called about your toothpaste, the one with tartar control, and it made me feel like a piece of shit.
What was the thing about Frosted Flakes or something like I don't remember. He had a cereal one.
One of his shticks he used to do was always call the like back, you know, the back of the box. It's like, for comments, call blah 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 blah, and he would like call on cereal or toothpaste or whatever.
Yeah.
God.
But yeah, his wife.
But yeah, but as far as that is like, I don't really have to like look over your shoulder and be like, is he doing this right? Like, is he doing this justice? Like, no, I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, but to go back to like trying to find your value in the world and stuff like that, it's like, that's a hard thing to do, dude. Like, it's hard to like figure out what makes you a contributing member of society. You know,
and you can work for a long time and then realize that, I mean, you can work for 10 years. There's people that go in high school, freshman, sophomore year, and pick a thing that they want to do that they think is going to be like their thing. And then 10 years later, when they're 25, after they graduate college and they're in their job for a couple of years, and they go, oh, no. You know, like,
well, the other thing is, like, I'm definitely part of the population that never felt like, I think there are some kids that are like, I want to be a doctor, blah, 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 blah. Or like, I want to be this, or like,
I never knew what I wanted to be.
Dude, I
Not
think
once,
90% of
ever.
us are like, the reason why we even pick a path is because we're like easily suggestible, or our parents are like telling us we need to do one specific thing, or like, oh, this pays well. You know, like,
I feel
you're
like
not,
if you're
not
athletically talented or intellectually talented, the path kind of gets decided for you, because it's like, oh, well, you're so good at this, you should just keep going at it.
True.
But other than that, I mean, for the most part, I was like, well, I don't know. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. The weirdest thing is the aptitude tests in school. You probably never did that, but
No.
they literally give you a test and you take it based on like what you feel and like blah, blah, blah. And it like literally tells you like your career path options. It's so like manufactured.
I wouldn't like that at
It's
all.
so bullshit. But the funny thing is actually, I think the aptitude test told me that I should go into like marketing or something like that. And that's actually what I kind of do. So
I have no idea what mine
my
would say.
thing was, I was always like,
I think mine was teaching, like education, honestly.
Really?
Now that I think about it, it's like, you would be a great teacher.
huh.
I've always been really good at explaining things. Like, I remember growing up, like, even with like my friends or whatever, or if I was like, you know, into a hobby or something, and like someone wanted to learn something, I loved like telling them how to do it, because I loved like sharing my knowledge. So it kind of makes sense, honestly. I also had daydreams of being on a TV show, so now I'm kind of like on an educational TV show. It's weird how that works out. Like, you have these little fantasies as a kid.
Also, like, learning about yourself. So, like, there's those personality tests. I know that you might give me shit for it, but like the Enneagram test, like, if you know your number and you're like honest with yourself, telling this quiz all this stuff about yourself, and like you know like which category you fit into, and you see all these relatable people, like, you know, famous people and people who have done great things, you can see yourself as like, oh, I see myself, you know, I see myself in that category. And you can kind of like evolve into, oh, I kind of want to do this.
I feel similar about Myers-Briggs in that way. It's kind of another woo-woo.
Personality test
Another
thing.
personality
Right.
test that's kind of woo-woo and mostly scientifically debunked, but it's still cool to look at and then be like, oh, I'm that number, or I'm that series of letters. And then like these people that do these things, you know, I also relate to them, or I like them, or I think they're cool or neat or whatever.
It's a good place to start, I think.
Yeah.
I would agree, because I never really took those tests. Like, well, I don't know. I remember like there's certain things that you like take growing up, or even like I think even in like small group at church, like I ended up taking something like that. And
What kind of Jesus freak are you,
It wasn't
Andrew?
even that. It was like, what animal are you? Or like, you know, it was like, these are the leaders, and they're the lions, and their color is red, and like you guys are the otters, and you guys are more fun loving, and blah blah blah, and these guys are the, you know what I mean?
These are the penguins.
These are the fucking dorks over here. These are the fucking koala bears.
No step on Snick.
No, but I remember I was an otter, and I was like, that kind of fits. But yeah, it is true. Like there's
I'm
definitely
a wolf dog. I'm a wolf. I'm an alpha.
I'm a fucking alpha.
Woof.
I'm a fucking alpha.
I'm a dog.
dude.
Dog.
Anyone who calls himself alpha
Is a beta.
beta.
Bitch.
Oh my god. I'm an alpha dog. I'm an alpha. It's like,
You're clearly insecure
if
as
you had
shit.
to scream that, you're not one. I'm sorry. I remember my favorite version of I'm an alpha is when Fusi was losing his goddamn mind.
Oh my
The
God.
July 15, and he was like trying to fight people, and he was like yelling at him about like, I'm an alpha, like straight up to like no jumper Adam. He was like
Adam
right in
22.
Adam 22's face. And like
That's just cringe. That's the cringiest
like
shit.
and Keemstar and Shane Dawson, and everyone's like, the fuck's going on? Can we get out of here, please?
What you doing?
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
that's very cringe. But yeah,
But I agree. I think if you find some type of baseline and then go off that, because I'm a firm believer in I'm not a big fan of the whole like figure out what you're bad at and fix it. I don't like that mentality.
No. That's
because you're
terrible.
gonna waste so much time trying to fix all the things you're bad at. I'm more into the whole find what you're good at and then double down on it. Because,
of course.
Because if you figure out what you're good at, then you can just crush it, and all the stuff you're bad at, you'll just like put it off to the side or figure it out later. There's so many things I'm bad at, but I'm not going to try to like figure out how to be less bad at it. I'm just going to keep being bad at it and then pick all the things I want to be good at.
Yeah, and I've just never been the person that's like, I'm going to choose this thing and I'm going to commit to it for I'm going to say that I'm going to go down this path for 5 years, because I'm just like, dude, I don't know how I'm going to feel about this in like the next 20 minutes. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be into it.
I can commit to things usually for about 18 months to 2 years. And then
that's pretty.
And then I start getting bored. And it's not that
like a job or something.
Whether it's a job or a hobby or a sport, whatever it is, I kind of get bored because I'm
Wheels
like,
to walking. Yeah, fuck this shit in 2 years.
I just get bored and I get antsy because I feel like, there's that first burst of like growth. You're like learning things and you're growing and you're developing and you're promoting and your skills are increasing. And I think the longer you do something, the harder it is to keep advancing. And for me, I feel like around year 2.5, I kind of hit a ceiling. And whenever I hit that ceiling, I'm usually, I'll pivot. I'm kind of like, I'm kind of done doing this thing because like I can't get any better at it unless I put in 2, 3,
It's like a bell
4,
curve.
10 times the amount of effort to keep getting better at it, and I'm just not. I don't like it that much enough to commit. I don't enjoy it that much. And there's been a few things that I've done for, like I got my Eagle Scout, like, that was something I committed to that took a while, like
But how long did you actually go from like life to being like, okay, I'm doubling down on the whole Eagle Scout thing? You know what I mean? Probably not.
Pretty quickly, because I'd seen so many kids turn 16, get cars and girlfriends, and then they were out.
When did you get yours?
17.
Okay. I was very last minute. I ended up getting not even like 17 though. Like I ended but once you turn 18 you can't get it. Sorry.
You have to basically finish your project.
I turned 18 when like I was on my Eagle Scout ceremony. I was turning 18 also.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like it was the craziest weekend of my life. So my birthday is May 28th. I had my high school graduation party. I had my Eagle Scout ceremony, and I turned 18, all on the same like weekend, literally.
Nice.
So it was
did you go buy cigarettes and cigars and lottery tickets and
the thing is I was always I was the youngest of all of my friends. Like all of my friends had already like. I turned 16 the latest, so all of my friends already had cars. So like wasn't that crazy when I finally was able to drive. Same thing with cigars and, buying lottery tickets and stuff. Is like I'd already seen all my friends do all that stuff. So it's just like, okay, cool, now I can do this thing, but I've been smoking cigars for the past 2 years.
So you're not like interested
I'm not like, oh, now I can buy it. Like it was literally just like, cool, like yeah, I was into that for sure. Like it was fun, but my friends, like some of my friends were like a year and a half older than me. So, or even like upperclassmen just like would help us out and get us stuff. So it's like, if we wanted to smoke cigars, like we were already doing it.
You're already doing it.
Dude, my thing was we would always get those, white owls. Do you remember those cigarillos?
Yeah, what flavor?
The peach ones.
I like
but the
grape.
fat ones, because you could because they felt more like real cigars rather than the little skinny, the little like black and mild kind of things.
I like purple. I like grape Phillies.
The grape ones are good.
Grape Phillies are my shit.
Yeah, but it was funny because normally people buy those to fill them with weed. We were just smoking them.
Same. Me and my friends, we used to do this thing where like it would be Saturday night and we drive around in my friend's shitty like 1995 Toyota Corolla with no paint on it that had over 200,000 miles, and the only reason we figured out it didn't have a clutch is when we gave it to one of our friends to drive who didn't know how to drive stick, who drove it all day and then asked, why is there a third pedal? Like this thing was.
Wait, how did it even move?
Dude,
it would just stay in first gear the whole time.
No, you could just like shift between gears and like.
Oh shit! Like you could just throw it in third, and you didn't have to push in a pedal or anything.
You would have it in like neutral. You'd start it and put it in first, and it would just go. And you just go.
It's like an automatic with the fucking manual mode.
Tiptronic, yeah.
Dude,
this is fucking like
this. One time we went to check the oil, and there was no oil.
Bruh.
We were like,
How is this thing alive?
We were like, wait a minute. So we'd all like roll down our windows and we'd listen to like the shittiest rave music ever. One time we used to do this. So in our
like old school rave. What were you listening
like
to?
Tiesto, Armin
Tiesto.
van Buuren, and like stuff like that.
Gotcha.
And it was on 96.5 The Buzz, Saturday night at midnight. From midnight
The
to
Buzz?
The Buzz.
Oh, Buzz.
From 12 to midnight, they would always play rave music. So we'd go drive around in our town and like meet up at Walmart and just drive around and pop into Sonics and smoke cigars and listen to rave music. And occasionally we do this thing called red light raves where we would go get glow sticks. And every time we were at a red light, we'd all jump out like of the doors and just like rave at the red light, like look at our glow sticks, like listening to like music, like smoking cigars, like dun 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 dun.
That's the most high school shit I've ever heard.
We just like going crazy, and then people, we loved the reactions from everyone else.
That's what you're trying to get.
Everyone else would just be like dying laughing and pulling out their 1.1 megapixel flip phones and like taking pictures and recording and like.
That's funny.
You know,
that'd be like a TikTok nowadays. Like someone would be like, "Oh, we gotta put this on TikTok."
Yeah,
like red light rave. Dude, my thing was there was this road near Norcross. Anyone listening might know this road. It's called Lakeshore Drive, and it goes around Berkeley Lake. But it's literally Lakeshore Drive abbreviates to LSD. So we'd always, and it's a road that doesn't have, it's literally kind of like a windy road around a lake. So, and it's kind of long. And there's no place where a cop could even like post up.
Oh, it's just like ditches on the side of the.
It's not even ditches, it's just houses and stuff. Like it's residential, and it's just 2 lanes. Like there's nowhere for a cop to post up, and it's so windy that it would be dangerous for them to just stop in the middle of the road. So it was always a place that you could like reliably just drive around and like do whatever because you couldn't like easily get caught doing anything. So we'd always we'd be like, you guys want to go to LSD? And so like we'd go like take 1 lap and like smoke a joint, or like, you know, like people in the backseat would be like drinking or something. Then we'd like go to our wherever. It was like the pregame was like to drive a couple laps around LSD and then like go somewhere. But it was so funny because one time my friend Eric, he had this shitty old Camry, and it was like really old. Like it qualified for the antique plate.
No, it was over 25 years old.
It was old. And one day, but it was like a freaking tank, you know, it was like solid stainless steel or whatever the heck, you know, they made cars out of back then, just solid steel metal and steel. Yeah. But anyways, we were driving and he hit a freaking, it was like trash night. So all the dumpsters were out on the street, and he hit a dumpster and it went flying, and we all like screamed, but like nothing really happened. And we were like, let's get the fuck out of here. And we just like drove away.
I was a very obnoxious bad kid. I was the kind of kid that like.
Is this when you were racing and stuff?
I'm gonna tell you something right now, and all you parents out there would beat me up. I would beat me up if my kid does anything that I did. I will punch them in the face. Here's an example. So we had a friend who had like a Ford Focus ZX2. It had this very round nose on it. So like anything that like hit it like flew off in a direction. Like it was we would never damage it, and it had this like rubbery, like cardboardy, like it wasn't even metal. It was like ding. It was like a Saturn or something. And 2 things we used to do. Oh my God, I would kill me. One was this thing called grave digging, where you just pull into someone's yard and just do burnouts. Just
oh no.
And just leave just 2 graves and just leave, okay? I would kill myself. The next one, I'd kill me. So we knew certain neighborhoods had different trash nights. So it would be like Monday is like this neighborhood, and Tuesday is this neighborhood, and Wednesday, and we would just like kind of go around and try to find these neighborhoods. And we do these things called trash can bowling, where we would clip the trash cans and see how far into the yard we could get it. Like, I would kill me if someone did this.
And it has the trash in it.
Yeah, still has the trash in it. So we'd swerve and just clip it, and it would just go flying. And I remember one time the best we ever got was, it was one of the big square barrels with the wheels on it.
Yeah.
We clipped it so hard the wheels flew off and like hit the front door. So it like
double points.
So it like made a knock or something, like doom. And we're like, dude, we never got caught, but I swear to you, like, imagine being an adult and going to work the next morning, and not only is your trash can destroyed, but there's trash all over your yard, and then like multiple neighbors all have the same problem. And then like a couple months or a couple weeks later, it happens again. It's like, it's the equivalent of like back in the day when they used to hit mailboxes with baseball bats. God, I was obnoxious, dude.
I have a story. So me and my friends in high school, my
Kids
buddy had,
do not do anything that I talked about or what Andrew talked about or what AJ is going to talk about. Do not. No.
This is not cool. This is so dumb. So my friend had this truck at the time, and we had like, he got this like a rope that you could wrap around stuff. And so we went to this one guy's yard in our neighborhood too, which is even more
That's dumb.
In your own neighborhood.
Kids, that's dumb.
And we wrapped it around this tree, and we pulled out and stole this tree.
Imagine waking up the next morning and you're missing a tree.
Like the roots are sticking out.
What
did you do with the tree? Just drag it for
down
a while?
the road?
Just dragged. I think we put it in my backyard or something.
Oh no, incrimination.
Even more dumb.
More
but
dumb.
That's
We're gonna
funny.
hide it. Just put it underneath my deck. My dad will never know.
Did you guys ever go TPing?
Why is there a 12? No, but we went egging. I got an egging story for you. Another one. Kids don't do this. This was back when the vans first started having doors that opened on both sides.
Sliding van door.
So we took out all
Kids are like, they didn't ever have them on both sides? What?
Yeah, so we took out the seats and we opened up both the doors and went and drove around neighborhoods and would like egg cars and houses and mailboxes and stuff, and then got on this like really crazy chase because someone like saw us do it and then like started chasing us, and we like drove to another city that was far away and tried to ditch him and drove back home and tried to ditch him, and eventually we pulled back in to like the kid whose parent owned the car, and we pulled in. Then she goes, "The police have been looking for you fuckers." She goes, "Get in the basement now. Put on a movie. Fast forward halfway through it. Get in that fucking basement right fucking now." And we were like, "Ha, ha, ha." So we like all like sprinted like down to the basement. She like went out to the car, like put all the fucking seats back in, like made sure there was no like evidence inside of it. And the police came, doof, 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 doof. She's like, what do you want? They're like, "We see your van's back. That means the boys are here. Where are they?" And she's like, "Boys have been here." She's like, what are you talking about? And they're like, "What boys?" She's like, "We had a silver blah, blah, blah with this license plate that was doing these things in this city." She's like, "That city's 20 miles away. They're here. What are you talking about?" Like the mom covered for us so hard. And she's like, "What?" She's like, "Boys, get up here." And we're like, "Get up here." What have you guys been doing? They're like, "Well, I'm watching a movie." Like, "What movie are you watching?" They're like, "Oh, we're watching this movie." Like, "How far along are you in the movie?" Like,
They asked that?
no, like the mom was asking all these leading questions. Like, "I don't know, maybe we're like halfway done or something." And then
The police are like, what movie are you watching? Toy Story. What part are you in? Like,
no,
what he just...
it was so funny because even at the end, the officer goes,
like, that's a good movie. What part are you at? I like that part too.
Well, it was funny because at the end, the officer's like, "Something's fishy here," and he pointed at the mom and he goes, "And you're in on it," and then just like left. And then the mom was like, "All right, here's the deal. Tomorrow, you're all gonna be here at 7 a.m. to paint my whole house, or I'm telling your parents." She's like, "Because I just saved you guys from jail." And we were like, "Yes, ma'am." like, we were like, "Absolutely." Like,
That's amazing.
and it was one of like the bad kid, you know, like I'm sure if like I told my mom, like she's going to ask me who it was, I'm going to tell her. She's like, "I know you were hanging out. You should have been hanging out with that kid."
That's hilarious. Dude, I have a TPing story. So
Oh my God. Like seriously, if my kid is anything like me, I'm going to punch him in his face. Like I seriously swear,
No, he is.
if he's anything like me, I'm going to punch him in his face. Like,
So my friend's mom, similar thing, but we couldn't drive yet. We were like in middle school, and we thought it was so funny. Or maybe we were like, yeah, I think we were in middle school, and we couldn't drive, and we wanted to go TP this kid's house that was like on a baseball team of some other kid. But we didn't like know the parents really. We didn't know, but we just, and I think like maybe the daughter, like one of my friends was like trying to date her or something. Anyways, like the sister of the guy. Anyways, it's this whole
so
thing.
you're trying to like prank someone who you kind of knew some people, yeah.
But we didn't know like the parents. I didn't really have any affiliation with any of them. Long story short, the mom drives us around, and the first time we get there, for whatever reason, like we showed up, and we like got out of the car and we were being all stealthy, and someone like set off the light. You know how like there's like a light thing?
Yeah, the
The
floodlights.
dad was like sitting in a chair on the driveway, and we didn't see him because he was in the shadows. Because he must have seen us like, you know, being stupid before, like scouting it out and like driving past a couple times or whatever.
Stealthy.
And he like doesn't know what the fuck's going on. He might think there's someone like trying to rob the house or some shit, you know?
Uh-huh.
So he's literally just sitting in a like a folding chair in the driveway. And then one of us sets off the light, and he's just sitting there. And my friend sees him and he screams, and everyone's like, run or whatever. So we all like scatter. And then like this one kid's mom was literally driving us around. She stayed in the car. She was our getaway car.
Oh, she knew that you guys were going to TP?
She took us. She took us to TP the house.
I mean,
she was kind
TP
of like, oh, I don't know, guys. And we're like, it'll be funny. It'll be funny.
I mean, TP is mostly innocent.
She didn't really want us to do it, but she was like, fine, okay, whatever. She took us to freaking Ingles and bought us toilet paper. It was great. Anyways, so then it all comes down to a thing. We also realized that we forgot a kid. Like, we all finally got back in the car, but this one kid, he did have a phone, because some of us didn't have phones. I didn't have a phone. This one kid had a phone, and we were calling him, and he was like, dude, there's police with searchlights in here, and like, I'm scared, blah, blah, blah. And we had forgotten about him, because we'd all driven away. We're like, oh, that was so funny. We almost TP'd that house and almost got caught.
Like, wait a minute, where's Milton?
Yeah, literally. We're like, where's John David? Or like, whatever. And so we finally like went back around to pick him up, and the police like stopped us. And was like, because she went back on her own. We all stayed back at the house. She's like, I gotta go back and get John David or whatever. So she
You
like,
keep saying or whatever if that's not exactly his name.
oh, that's his name. But I'm saying like or whatever. Like that's what she said. Like we gotta go back and whatever. So anyways, so apparently a police officer like stopped her, and she was like this really young, cool mom. She had like blonde hair. She looked really young, and the police officer was like, something how she started talking to the police officer. She's like, yeah, there's a girl running around here driving around some kids, blah blah blah. They're gonna TP a house or something like that. And have you seen anyone running around? And she's like, no, I haven't seen anyone. He's like, yeah, I think it's like a high school girl driving around some kids. And it was literally her.
She's like, a high school girl, you said?
Yeah, literally. But she was like 32. She was like really young. And yeah, it was
a hot mom right there.
Yeah. But it was just really funny because it was just like, it was literally her. But anyways, that was fun. Childhood stories with Richard and Andrew and AJ.
Jesus, I swear, dude. It's like, I'm gonna love my kid, but I'm gonna hate him too if he's anything like me. Like, I was so rambunctious.
Well, he's either gonna be like you or he's gonna be like Jalila.
Both of us. We always joke about that. We're like, yo, our kids are gonna be the death of us. Like, they're gonna be the death of us. Like, we're literally gonna have to like put him in headlocks and push him down the stairs. Like,
Sounds like you shouldn't have kids, Richard.
Well, I mean,
I'm just
not
kidding.
literally, but it's like,
I know.
I mean,
You're gonna have to set him straight.
yeah, there's a lot of assets to the type of personality that we have, but there's also a lot of liability to having the type of personalities that she and I have. We joke about it where literally she'll.
What's a girl version of Richard though? Like, what if you have a daughter that's like you?
Oh God. So I say this with Jalila. She's like, how are you always so calm, cool, and collected? And like, how are you always able? I was like, oh, because I have therapy. I'm like, I'm you with 2 years of therapy. 2-3 years of figuring this out. Okay.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. Oh my God. Jesus fucking Christ, man. I'm kind of embarrassed this episode talking about all the dumb stuff I did when I was in high
I'm
school.
not, because it was just stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like dumb stuff you do. It's not you. You've changed so much.
And I feel like, totally not me, but I feel like also like that when you're with a guy and when you're with other guys, every time you add a person in, your IQ like cuts in half.
Yeah.
So it's like you and your buddy, half the IQ. You add another one in there, you got to cut that down. You're at a quarter of the IQ. Add another guy in, you're at an eighth of the IQ. So it's like,
and one person has a dumb idea, and everyone's like,
Yeah, we should totally start doing that. That'd be a great idea. Let's go to the store. We're gonna buy.
and then your parents are like, what were you thinking? And you're like, we weren't.
we weren't thinking.
Literally. It sounded fun.
Another thing we used to do was we'd get sparkling grape juice and like hang out the window and pretend like it was wine. We'd be driving along and be like, hey guys, we drive through like near where like patios were and be like, what's up fuckers? You guys like drinking and driving? And we would like chug our like fake wine and like Like, dude,
Oh my gosh, dude! In college, one time I did that where we had sparkling grape juice or something, and all of us were walking around. We were walking to a party, and I had like a bottle of sparkling grape juice, so I was like openly drinking, but I wasn't drinking, and it was just so funny because I was like acting like I was drunk and like drinking the grape juice or whatever, and my friends were like, "Dude, chill, we're gonna get like attention of cops." I'm like, "I'm not actually drinking." They're like, "Yeah, but we all are, bro. Like, chill.
Like, but we
like,
are.
We're underage drinking right now. Stop." I was just like such an idiot. But anyways,
oh god.
I feel like that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
But
one last thing. This is buried deep in the end of the episode, and we'll make a bigger announcement later. But after this podcast episode is over, Andrew and I are going to finalize our merch details. And as soon as those merch details get finalized,
hopefully they can go on sale soon.
he said,
We're gonna make a video.
He said a week to 10 days from when he gets the final designs, right?
He can, yeah. I mean, we still have to like set up all the back end stuff, but I mean, I think we can get it all done in like next couple weeks.
And I also don't mind like throwing him a few bones to be like, do you want to do it?
Oh yeah, that too. But the other thing is, yeah, I think once he prints off like the first couple or whatever, we're able to like check them out in person. We can make a video about it and we'll launch it. It'll be super fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting, guys. It's the kind of merch that like we're excited to wear. I'm excited. Like I
want the hoodie.
Like yeah, me too. I've showed the design to a few people and like, ooh, I want that. And they're not even like regular watchers of or viewers or listeners.
Yeah, it'll be cool.
It's pretty.
But vote for us on the Shorty Awards.
Oh yeah, keep doing that. If you guys have made it this long into the episode, you're an OG. We appreciate you.
You're the shit.
Yeah, follow us on places.
Yeah, follow us in all the places, and we'll see you hopefully next week if Richard doesn't randomly go to the hospital again.
Well, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out this injury / this rehospitalization has really thrown a wrench into like every video idea that I've had. So I really have to kind of reformulate and figure out like what the hell I'm going to be doing with Wheels to Walking videos. Like it's very confusing. It's very complicated. So, hopefully you guys like what I eventually come up with because it's going to be much different than what we've been doing.
Yeah.
So there's that. Yeah.
All right. Peace, mofos.
Adios. Bye.